Hi folks, today we're going to be looking at finishing off our path. If you caught the last video, you saw we laid our sandstone sets. Today we're going to look at resin pointing and getting it all finished, so stick around and we'll make a start. Five years ago we did the patio and the other parts, and we used a very similar product to this. So far we've brushed and swept out all the joints. We've made sure that there isn't any of the mortar sticking up too far. We've blown it out and then we vacuumed it out. Got to flood the whole lot really, and that's going to stop the product sticking to the stone and also makes it easier to kind of distribute it. As it dries, it then sets. So they're in a sealed bag. If they're stored under water, they don't set. But as soon as that water dries, it'll start the curing process, and I think it's about a day start to finish. So you can't really overdo this stage, but we will start this end, and then the other end might have dried, so we might have to revisit the water halfway through. But it's kind of one of the reasons people go with this product as well, because you can obviously do it any weather in the rain, whereas sand and cement just make them right mess and you stain things. And we'll go into the kind of pros and cons of this versus sand and cement in a minute. This one's come in two bags, there's different colours, but we'll go one at a time and we'll just work our way across, and we're just going to use a soft brush to sweep it in. But the most important thing then is to kind of tool it into the joint, either with a bit of garden hose or a little pointing trowel, tuck trowel, that sort of thing. So we'll start this end and work along. So this is the dark grey or dark buff colour, no, deep grey. So I've done an initial kind of sweep to get, some material down into the gaps, but the key thing is to really force it in, pack it in tight. So I'm bringing back a pile now and I'll work across that way. And you can see already the stone's drying, so we want to make sure we keep wetting each section. So as far as coverage goes, we are on our second bucket, second pack, so I'm hoping that we're going to be alright all the way to the end. It's quite hard to estimate with this size set. We're obviously using a lot more than you would if you were using a large format sort of slab on a normal regular patio. That said, I don't want to tip it all out right to the end and then find out that I haven't got enough and already be half filling the joints, because we need that full depth to give it the strength. So I'm just working my way gradually, kind of estimating as I go. I'm hoping we should be able to get down there. Right, we're almost done. We have a smidge left, which is quite handy because there's a little bit of touch-ups from the old pass I want to do. Once it's gone off a little bit, like you're sponging tiling, you know, you let the grout go off a little bit and then you sponge, always working on the diagonals so you're not kind of digging it out and working down, and it's really smoothing it out now and kind of setting it. You want to set it a little bit below the surface. So we've got this much left. We don't have to waste it. We can store it, although we can't put it back in a vacuum packed bag. If we cover it with water, it'll actually hold. And the rep, when we did the stone market stuff, said he uses the same product for demos, scoops it out, puts it back in the bucket, and covers it with water, and you know, for several months it'll sit like that and be absolutely fine. Come back in about an hour, just finish off that last little section, just make sure it's kind of nicely swept off and everything's compacted in nicely. But the rest of it we can just leave overnight. Whatever the weather, it shouldn't really matter. It looks to be dry, and in this temperature it easily should be walkable by tomorrow, and we just got to keep the rabbits and the dog off it for now. If we're talking sand and cement as an option, it's far cheaper, but there's a few issues there. This has got a little bit of flex in it. It's going to be a little bit more resistant to freezing and any movement during winter. But of course the main reason is when you're using sand and cement with natural stone, you have a tendency to stain the surrounding. You end up with a bit of like a ghosting around the areas where you pointed. And you can be pretty careful on a large patio, and you can do that, that's fine. But if you imagine doing that here, for the extra amount of time that we would have spent and the concerns of it happening in the first place, I think these are about 25, 30 quid a go. It's well worth doing. 2 hours and we're finished. Well, we're a few days on now, and as promised, I really wanted to give you an up-to-date kind of review, I guess, of the 5 years ago project that we did, which is the patio and the other path. This is how the path's looking now. Really pleased with it, and it's really blended in well with the rest of it. But let's head over, we'll look at the patio first. So here we go, this is a limestone patio we put in exactly 5 years ago this month. And again, I used a brush-in resin compound for the pointing. It is darker than it was when I put it in, but I guess that's just a natural kind of aging of it. But as you can see, this is rock solid. I pressure wash this normally once or twice a year, and I don't think, maybe it's gone down about 1 millimeter or 2. I set it down because I used a kind of a hose pipe, or I can't remember, maybe it was even a curved kind of pointing trowel. But you can see there, it's really nice and secure. There's no breakout anywhere, no cracking, and I just think it's always really helpful when you can see something in a long-term review. So hopefully that gives you an idea. I'll give you a quick look at it on the path as well. So again, here's the same. I recessed it down slightly, but this is all nice and solid. Even right at the edge here, where I didn't really edge the path, you can see there where I kind of shaped the end, it's held up. It is best to have it contained or retained on the edges, so either an edging strip or some sort of border to it, but it doesn't go anywhere. You can shape it almost like sand and cement. So one other thing to mention is that I've had quite a few people suggest a product called Flowpoint. I think it's used in construction quite a bit on roads and pavements. It looks, from having a look at the videos online, it looks like a more fluid approach. So you use like a squeegee, almost to me when I looked at it, it almost looked like self-leveling sort of compound in its thickness, and it flows. So I guess that's why it's called Flowpoint. But it fills all of the gaps. So if you were using it on something like this, it might be quite a good way of doing it. And because it's so much more liquid, it fills and almost self-compacts, so you don't have to tool it in. And just for a bit of comparison, here is sand and cement pointing that I did just on these steps. That was because there was a bit of an overhang and it was just a bit stronger. So again, this has been down the 5 years, nice and solid. Luckily the limestone paving doesn't seem to stain at all. So I've used this for other applications like steps and like a tabletop around sand and cement, and it doesn't stain like you do have on the Indian sandstones, which are like the reds and the greys, and you can get, you know, a bit of staining on there, but it does clean off after a while. Hope you enjoyed that quick project, two-parter, our path, or three-parter I should say, with the prep. Really nice way to go, but really everything I've shown you in this path project is the same if you were doing a patio as well. So whether it's big natural stone patio slabs like this, or even just standard concrete patio, you could go with the same prep, same mortar bed, still use the slurry, and you can go with a resin pointing like this. And for all those people who keep asking about the slurry mix, it's not a secret, but I will be putting up a video this week on that slurry mix, because I think it is definitely the secret sauce for any patio. Everything I've used today I'll stick down in the links below in our description. All the other links you might need are down there if you want to pick up a t-shirt, a mug, or if you want to follow us on Patreon, you can do so there. But thank you for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.